Welcome to this episode of Path to Legend. We all know that the powerful builds from the first season were significantly nerfed in the second season. Are there any builds that still remain viable in the second season? Yes, there is the Flicker Strike build, which originally came from PoE 1. It was a very popular build in the first season of PoE 2. However, due to the nerfs to the Marohi Urchi and Void Fist, the build's damage is not as high as in the previous season. On the 6th of April, a Bilibili content creator named 只待明日 posted a video about the Flicker Strike build, which made me realize that the Flicker Strike build is still viable. Let's quickly go over the Flicker Strike skill. Teleports and strikes 2 additional times per power charge, with 285% more attack speed. You cannot gain power charges while using this skill. Additional effects from quality. 0-20% chance to not remove charges on use. So, obtaining power charges is key, which means we need to discuss the essential skills for generating them. Profane Ritual consumes a corpse upon completion of the ritual, granting you a power charge. Combined with Cast on Critical Strike, this allows you to gain energy when you land a critical hit. Once you reach the energy threshold, the socketed spell is triggered. As long as we land enough critical hits, we can gain power charges and activate the Flying Thunder God technique. However, it's important to note that the initial hit of Flicker Strike impacts the damage of each subsequent hit. This mechanism can be leveraged to maximize the effectiveness of skills that enhance single-hit damage. When facing high-difficulty bosses and you find yourself lacking power charges, you can equip a short staff to use Profane Ritual. This, combined with Skeletal Warrior and Sacrifice, allows you to generate power charges. This method can also be used when you are map clearing and need power charges. In addition to the skills mentioned, you also need to include the following. 1. Infernal Cry. 2. Charge Staff. 3. Herald of Thunder. 4. Cast on Freeze. In Cast on Freeze, we need to bring the skill Voltaic Mark, and it should be noted that we need to have enough freeze accumulation to trigger Cast on Freeze, so we need to bring the ring of the original freeze damage in terms of equipment, and of course, we can also use talents to ensure that there is enough freeze damage. This step can make our brushing smoother and smoother. Additionally, in the Cast on Critical setup, the Profane Ritual does not require us to switch weapons to trigger it. Cast on Critical will automatically activate this skill, allowing us to gain power charges, which is the core mechanism of this build. However, it's important to note that while using Flicker Strike, we cannot gain power charges. Therefore, we should not continuously use Flicker Strike. Instead, we should pause occasionally to allow the power charges generated by Profane Ritual to accumulate on us. In terms of Ascension, I recommend the White Monk and Amazon. The White Monk offers critical hits that ignore elemental resistances, while the Amazon can achieve a higher critical strike chance. Weapons. Since we are using a critical hit build, critical hit chance is crucial to increase our crit rate. Our skill crit rate should not fall below 70%. The modifiers critical damage bonus, lightning damage, fire damage, and cold damage all contribute to increasing our damage. For the final modifier, you can choose between +X to level of all melee skills or increased attack speed. Increasing the level of all melee skills can boost your damage significantly, but you'll need to manage your mana issues. On the other hand, increased attack speed will make your mapping smoother. Defensive Equipment. In addition to seeking resistances and energy shields, we can also look for the 4 damage boosting modifiers mentioned earlier, as well as gain number mana per enemy killed, and leech number % of physical attack damage as mana to address our mana issues. Specifically for headgear, besides searching for high energy shields, it's ideal to find a helmet with a Vol implicit that grants +1 power charges. If budget constraints are an issue, a regular helmet can be used as an alternative. Necklace. If you're not an invoker, you can equip the Beacon of Azi's Solar Amulet. which allows you to ignore the target's elemental resistances when you land a critical hit. If you are an invoker, you can switch to the Serpent's Egg to gain an additional energy orb. When tackling high difficulty bosses, it's best to switch to a necklace that offers critical damage bonus, critical hit chance, and level of all melee skills, as this will make it easier to defeat the boss. Next is our grading session, where we use Invoker for scoring. In this issue, we looked for a player who had been using this build since the beginning of the season Poolmaster, Flicker, to break it down. We have counted all the daytime PoE2 Ninja, and as of the 25th of June, this player has a total of 235,832 DPS, which accounts for 88.20% of the DPS percentile of all ranked players, and his EHP is as high as 24,216, accounting for 96.22% of the EHP of the latter list. It can be said that both DPS and EHP are exceptionally strong on the stats panel. By averaging the two, the final strength score is 92 points, which is quite impressive. Cost. We evaluated the character's entire gear and compared it on PoE2 Trade, ultimately calculating that the player's total equipment cost is approximately 10.5D, placing them at 46.91% on the rankings, which is considered below average. I need to explain to you why 10.5D is at the top of the rankings. After the 0.2.1 version update, the prices of many items have significantly dropped. For more details, you can watch our market series. Currently, its cost is 10.5D, but before version 0.2.1, it could have cost 30 to 40D or even more. The final cost score is 95 points. Uniqueness. In our previous video, we identified some shortcomings in terms of uniqueness. We plan to evaluate the build's uniqueness from 3 perspectives. 1. Ascendancy. 2. Skills. 3. Equipment. On Ninja, the usage rate for Invoker is 5%, ranking 7th in terms of class usage, occupying 81.94% of the leaderboard. Although Flicker Strike has a 45% usage rate among invokers, we do not focus solely on one skill. Instead, we have analyzed its skill combinations for uniqueness, and it occupies 57.44% of the leaderboard. In terms of equipment, his gear is not much different from most invokers, occupying 33.92% of the leaderboard. Finally, after evaluating his equipment, ascendancy, and skills, his uniqueness score is 60. Practicality. The final score for Practicality is the only one that leans towards a subjective assessment. This build performs exceptionally well in both high difficulty boss fights and map clearing, with intense visual effects. However, due to its high speed, you often need to backtrack to pick up items. This build can be experienced at a low cost, and if you're looking for budget-friendly videos, you can check out Misok Shiru on YouTube. I would give it a Practicality score of 94. Final score. We added up the scores for cost, strength, uniqueness, and practicality to calculate the final average score. The overall cost performance score is 85 points. That's all for this episode of our Legend Road series. If you have any builds you'd like to see or any questions, feel free to leave a comment. To see more build recommendations, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.